Hi, my name is Barry Sterling Mitchell. Today is September 4th, 2022, and this is Ben and Barry on football.
What's up out there, y'all? This is Ben Dickerson, your co-host, and week one is in the books. It's football time.
Yeah. There were some interesting things that happened, and all through our conversation, I'm going to try to maintain the concept that this is the second preseason. And
I
I
agree.
want to ask you and all of our listeners, is there a better term for those first three games of the regular season where these guys are playing together for the first time? I'm calling it the second preseason, but I'm wondering, it's not a preseason. These games count, you know? So I'm kind of having a problem with that, but it gets what I
Yeah,
want.
yeah, I understand what you're saying. We would like to have like a kind of a better word for it or a better analogy. But let's face it, with the number of preseason games being cut by one, and a lot of teams deciding to give very little time, if in some cases, any time at all, to a number of their starters. I mean, they're putting in the work that they would have normally put in a preseason game or two here in the first couple of games. So yeah, some teams are going to be a little out of sync, especially offensively. There's several quarterbacks who didn't play a down in the preseason, and there are several teams who didn't play hardly any starting skill position players in the preseason. So yeah,
I
we're
mean,
going to see
there were
some.
some guys who didn't do a bunch of tackling in the preseason either.
Well, yeah,
You know? So you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. All right. So um now that the season is in play, we have the Sterling Net Point Power Rankings, which we will go through. And the four categories that we will look at are average turnover differential, average points against, average points for, and average net points. Net points being the one that we look at, and the one that we use when we calculate the next part of the show, which is the bias plus reports, and the plus being turnover differential added in. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. Let's kick this thing off, Benny. And I'm sure we'll have a lot of ongoing conversations about this first weekend. First thing we're going to talk about, A-Tide, average turnover differential. On your left, you have the rankings from 1 through 16, and then on your right, 17 through 32. So there's a lot of ones all mixed up in the middle of this. And again, being that the first game, that's how it normally is. But you gotta pay special attention to the top three there, which would be Pittsburgh, Miami, and the LA Chargers. With Pittsburgh having 5, Miami and LA both having 3. Your top 5 is actually rounded out with Jacksonville and Minnesota, and they both have 2. So that's the turnover differential. What did you think about some of those, like especially Pittsburgh? I mean, they were like, man.
well, the Pittsburgh defense is for real. There's no doubt about that. They are going to be slightly challenged, however, because the younger Watt brother sustained an injury and he's going to be out for a while. I think I heard today that they are not going to put him on IR, and they are ruling against surgery also. They're going to try to let him sit and heal up for about 5 or 6 weeks and see how that turns out. I don't know if that's a real good idea, but evidently it's not a really bad tear. He tore his pectoral muscle. So we'll have to wait and see. But let's face it, he's the guy with his pass rush that really makes that defense go. But there's plenty of other good playmakers on that squad.
We're going to talk a little bit more about Miami. To me, Miami was one of the more impressive teams, and in that they looked like they were coming out of the preseason with a sense of order or an organization, and they kind of knew what they wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
So I was really interested in seeing that there. Um, if you go on the left hand side, probably the big couple of the big surprises is Green Bay with -2. That's a situation where a lot of new receivers. You got a big time quarterback with a big cap hit. So this is going to be interesting to see how they matriculate through the rest of the season, especially considering that we call the first 3 games the second preseason. All right, ready to move on?
Sure.
Points against. That's your defense. There's Pittsburgh again. Giving up just 3 points on average. And again, it's only 1 game, so there's no real average. Everything's just that number. That's what they gave up in terms of points. New England gave up a big time 38 there. And you're going to see why we use net points, because Philly put up what, 20? I thought they put up more than that. I have to take another look at that. But yeah, these are the teams. Oh no, that's defense. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm confusing that with offense. All right, so whose defense did you like particularly?
Well, obviously, I liked Pittsburgh. I was impressed also, just like you said, with Miami. It looks like most of the defensive players that were put together by their previous head coach, who was a defensive-minded coach, seem to still be there and still seem to be playing at a very high level. I was expecting the LA Chargers to have a good defense. They had one last year, but I think they were lacking in certain parts of it. Primarily, I believe, in the secondary. They seem to have shored that up. So now they're going to be really, really tough. It's part of the reason why I'm picking them to win that division, the AFC West. It's because of the improvement on their defense. The Jacksonville Jaguars was a little surprising, only giving up 9 points, but not surprised at all at the Minnesota Vikings. I've been touting the Minnesota Vikings since the preseason. Actually, when I started looking at things on fantasy, it's kind of when it kind of brought it to my eyes what the Minnesota Vikings could possibly be this year. And so far, I know it's only game 1, but so far they look like they've got things going pretty well in hand.
The Seattle Seahawks are on the plus side there, having given up 20 points. But 2 goal line stand turnovers. Hits. I mean, and it was funny because, the coach for the Denver Broncos, there's already questions about him because of his, the decisions in the closing seconds of the game. But I had questions because I'm thinking to myself, do you think your line is a bit better than it is there? Because you keep thinking you can run running back up in there, and they keep going, no, that's not happening. So, I don't know if he maybe is overestimating the capabilities of his offensive line, but when they got down right there, I mean,
You're talking about Denver?
Yeah,
they actually ran the ball well for the course of the game.
Yeah. They ran the ball.
They actually ran the ball pretty well.
But that goal line situation, it's we all talk about what happened.
Didn't they fumble?
Between the 20s, and it's another thing when you get down in the red zone and on the goal line, things change a little bit,
Well, what changes is you have to be smart about your play calling. And like you said, we're going to talk about this Denver Broncos thing going on here. They made a few mistakes other than the big one at the end of the game. But one of them was the play selection, not necessarily the fact that they chose to run the ball, but some of the formations that they chose to run the ball out of. That was the problem. I call that coaching error. There's nothing wrong with the run game. They just didn't run it smart.
Okay. That's an interesting thought. I mean, uh, when we were talking about,
You don't run the ball out of shotgun when you're on the 5-yard line. You don't do that. You take your options away. You pretty much just gotta run a run play. You take away your options. You get under center, and just think about it. If you get under center and the quarterback takes the snap and throws a pitch out, okay, the running back can get outside. He can cut it back inside. There's at least 3 different things he can possibly do according to how the blocking breaks down and how the defense attacks him. Or you can fake the pitch, go play action and throw the ball. But if you go to shotgun, you pretty much have 2 choices. You hand the ball off, or you play action fake handoff and you throw the ball. You take your options away. So if the defense is playing well, especially against the wide receivers and the tight end, and or you decide you're going to run the ball, then you want to run it more efficiently. You want to put the quarterback under center and run it from there. You can run a spread play. You can run Denver's known for running the spread, where all the linemen all just crash down one way, take the legs of all the defensive rushers, and then hand off or pitch the ball to the running back, and he can either follow the flow or he can cut back. They took all that away from themselves by doing it out of shotgun. Not smart. Even Peyton Manning ran under shotgun when he was with Denver and had Melvin Gordon.
Shotgun is popular down in there. We've actually
Nah.
lots of teams do.
No, it's not.
They get right down on the goal line and they spread out.
And they throw the ball.
Yeah, that's what they do.
Well, they weren't going to throw the ball. If you're going to run the ball, don't run out of. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying don't go shotgun. I'm saying if you're going to run the ball, don't run out of shotgun formation. You're limiting yourself.
All right. Let's look at average points for. Who's putting up the points, Benny?
No
Kansas
surprise there.
44. Kansas City answered all of those questions about can they operate without Tyreek Hill, didn't they?
Nah, you can say that. It's week 1.
Week 1, but it looks like they, well, like I said, Andy Reid was a coach before Tyreek Hill got there, so he knows what it is not to have that as a weapon. That's part of what he does. But I thought they looked very good. Philly and Detroit, there's that 38-35 win. Interesting listening to Philly fans talk about giving up 35 points to Detroit. I think it's the worst thing in the world.
It kind of is. If you're supposed to be who you're supposed to be.
If you're supposed to be. Buffalo, 31 points. Nice, healthy. The Commanders, 28. New Orleans, 27. Atlanta, 26. Cleveland, 26. Carolina, 20.
Let's face it, there's no surprise with Kansas City. There's no real surprise to me with Philadelphia. There's no surprise with Buffalo. Washington, surprise, okay? Carson Wentz, after a really slow start, really turned it on, man. He was impressive in the second half of that game. I was shocked. And New Orleans, a team that I didn't expect to start off slow, did in fact start off slow, and they had to make a bit of a comeback too. But I expect them to be able to throw the ball. I tell you what, Can't Guard Mike is back. Yeah. Mike Thomas, remember we used to call him Can't Guard Mike?
Yeah.
He's back.
Yeah. And you still can't guard him. And you still cannot guard him. It's an amazing thing, man. That he has that capability. Some guys can do that. They know how to get loose. They know how to get loose. And he's one of the guys. And he catches the ball, whether he's loose or not. Did you see the one catch Tyreek had where he mossed the guy?
Yeah, he snatched the red away from him.
Jiminy Christmas, man. I'm telling you.
The cheetah is very aggressive for a little dude. He's a super aggressive player. Like just when he's being interviewed, his interviews are aggressive. The way he talks, the way he walks, he's an aggressive little guy, man. I love that guy.
All right. This is what we came here for, is average net points. That is the difference between points for and points against. I look at it as who's the bully on the block. It's the guy that's beating the other teams by the widest margin. So that's what this is really looking at, the margins of victory. Kansas City, 23 points. Buffalo, 21 points. I know that just warms your heart, doesn't it?
Not surprised. I've been calling for this for the last 2 years.
Tampa Bay and Minnesota at 16 average net points. Miami at 13. Chicago at 9. Washington at 6. And the LA Chargers at 5. And Pittsburgh at 3. Pittsburgh and Philly, both 3. Now, as you notice, ladies and gentlemen, on the right-hand side, in rank 17 through 32, you will see negative numbers. So those are the teams that lost, and that is the average net that they lost by. So as you can see, the Rams, Arizona, Green Bay, and Dallas are all teams that you probably wouldn't have expected to be at the bottom of this list after week 1. But bam, there they go.
Let me see those last 3. We got Dallas, Green Bay. I'm trying to see, did I pick any of them to win? Looking down my little list here. I picked the Cowboys to lose. I picked Green Bay to lose. I'm not surprised. I picked the Rams to lose. I picked all of them to lose. Okay. So no surprise over here. I didn't know they were going to lose that bad, but I did pick them all to lose.
Did you look at your numbers overall yet?
Yes, I did. I was 9-6-1. Okay. Not great, but kind of,
okay,
on the winning side. 9-6-1. A couple of losses. I'm kicking myself. One was the one I hadn't changed. Remember, I originally picked Cleveland, changed it to the Panthers.
Right.
Yeah, I had a little Baker Mayfield nut house thing going on in my head. Should have never changed that one. And I should have never picked the Cardinals to beat the Chiefs. For some strange reason, you know what it is? And I'm going to admit this. I don't like the Chiefs. I don't think the Chiefs are as complete a team as people say they are. Their defense to me is extremely suspect. What I didn't take into account was Kyler Murray's receiving core is totally decimated. He's throwing the ball to guys I don't even know who the heck they are. That's what happened in that game. But besides that, that's 2 games I should have had. 2 more wins I should have had.
All right. Well, let's see if we can do better in week 2. Going right to it, he says. Pro Football Bias Plus reports the Bias Plus is the net points plus the turnover differential, and the team which has the greater has the favor. So here we have the LA Chargers at Kansas City. Bias Plus score of 12 favors the LA Chargers. As much good work as Kansas City put in there, net points and turnover differential wise, the Chargers fared better. What you got, Benny?
I'm going with the Chargers with confidence.
Oh my goodness.
Yes. What the mistake I made in thinking when picking the Cardinals is going to be the difference in who wins and loses this particular game. And that's that Chiefs defense. They're going to be in for it, man. They're going to be in for it. The Chargers are a team I think can match them offensively and can give them real trouble defensively. And the other mistake, and if they watch the film from the Cardinals game, they'll find out blitzing Mahomes is not necessarily something you want to do, especially if you don't have down and distance in your favor. You can't just send the house play after play after play. Andy's calling and plays, they'll carve you up, which is exactly what they did. I don't even think, did anybody catch a long pass in that game from the Chiefs?
I don't know, but like I said,
I
they
don't think
control the
so.
ball. They got first downs when they needed them.
That's what I'm saying. They carved them up. You
Yeah.
can't send a blitz when the quarterback is getting the ball. That's not going to work. Coverage, baby, coverage.
All righty. Washington at Detroit. Bias plus score 8 favors Washington.
Carson Wentz is that kind of guy that will impress you one week and then let you down the next week. But because he's with a new team and he's got a new coach and he's got all these weapons, I'm going to stick with the guy and I'm going to pick Washington to beat Detroit, even though they're on the road. Mainly because I saw what the Eagles offense did to the Detroit defense, and I don't see any reason why, if Wentz doesn't lose his mind, the Washington offense can't do the same doggone thing. The Commanders have a really good offense. They really do. Some people aren't super impressed with Antonio Gibson and J.D. McKissick with their running game, but I think those guys are pretty efficient running the ball and catching the ball, both of them. The rookie Jahan Dotson impressed me right away, and I touted him early on. The surprise guy was Curtis Samuel. Love Curtis Samuel. I loved him when he was with the Panthers. He had a down year last year. He had a lot of injuries. Looks like he's back 100%, and you can't stop Terry McLaurin. So there's no reason why the Commanders can't go into Detroit and pull out a win. I'm taking Washington.
All right, Benny. I do have to mention that I believe my calculations for that Kansas City Chargers game,
yes,
were wrong.
Oh, okay.
Now you can still you still got the Chargers if you want them.
I'm keeping
but as
them.
I look at the average net points, Kansas City had 23, and the Chargers had 5. So right there, that pretty much favors Kansas City.
So that's good. So when the Chargers win, that means I beat the bias.
You beat the bias. Yes.
I love to beat the bias.
Yes, you would. Yes, you would.
I don't mind agreeing with the bias, but I prefer beating the bias.
So Washington at Detroit, and you're going with
Commanders.
The Commanders. Tampa Bay at New Orleans. Now, this is one of those spooky matchups. New Orleans gives Tampa Bay fits on an ongoing basis. The bias plus score of 14, however, favors Tampa Bay. And again, anytime you've got Jameis versus Tampa Bay, you got all of that history that becomes a part of that right there. So Tampa Bay at New Orleans, they're going into the dome. Who you got?
This is a tough one. It's a tough one only because Tampa looked like they had to shake a few little cobwebs off there last week. And the media is really hyping New Orleans up. Justifiably so. It is true that the Buccaneers do have trouble with the Saints. It is true that they have trouble with the Saints, especially in the dome. I would like to go with the Saints. I really would. But I believe the better defense will win the game. Now, there could be some questions even on that point because the Saints defense is no joke. but I don't think they really controlled who they play last week. I'm sorry, I don't have my list in front of me. But they didn't control the first half of the game before their offense got going the way that I expected them to. So for that reason, pretty much that reason alone, I'm going to go with the Buccaneers.
Okay. Okay. All right.
I know that might sound a little crazy to people. They're like, oh, he's just saying that to be saying. But that's basically, that's all there is to it. You know, I'm not going to say, well, Brady's way better than Jameis, so they should win. No, I don't think that's going to be the key. The key is going to be defense.
All right. How about New York Jets at Cleveland? Bias plus score of 19 favors Cleveland.
Got to go with the bias on this one. Cleveland is hands and shoulders, or heads and shoulders better than the Jets. There's rumor that Zach Wilson may be back this week, so that would put Joe Flacco back on the bench. But I don't think Zach's ready for what the Browns are going to bring. They pretty much handled the Panthers pretty well, except for in the fourth quarter where they almost fell apart and lost the doggone game. But for the most part, the Browns are the Browns. Jacoby Brissett is a game manager, and Chubb and Kareem Hunt are running the ball extremely well. Hunt running and catching. They both put up good numbers last week. They'll continue to do that. The Browns are a well game managed, run first offense with a tough defense with a really good pass rush. That's a recipe for the playoffs without a doubt. So got to go Browns.
I think last week I compared Brissett to Geno, and they both won.
Hey, how about that?
They both won. So that's good stuff. That's good stuff. Well, now let's see what we have next. Oh, Carolina at the New York Giants. And a bias plus score of 3 favors New York Giants.
Yeah, how about that?
Look at that.
Okay, so I like the way my guys looked last week. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't stunning. There was no fireworks. Well, actually, there was fireworks. I think Saquon broke off a big run late in the game that actually helped them get into position to win the game. Saquon's back, y'all. He's 100%. Looks good running and catching the ball. I'm very happy about that. Sterling Shepard looks like he's going to be okay. Hopefully he'll stay healthy. They're going to have to get Kadarius Toney dialed up into this offense to really make it go. But the improvements in the offensive line seem to be holding up. I'm liking my Giants right now. Of course, the Panthers, I'm not going to, Baker's dangerous. He can do damage. But I think the crowd will be hyped, and the Giants are feeling good about winning their first game, and I'm going to go with the Giants on emotion.
What did you think about the choice to go for 2 by your coach?
Excellent.
I kept thinking, is this analytics at work?
He said he decided that before the drive was over.
Okay.
And what I really love is he went to some players on the sideline and said, when we score here, he didn't say if, he said, when we score here, I'm going for 2. What do you think? And the players were like, hell yeah. I love that. I love that. Let's go.
All right. That sounds good. Next up. New England at Pittsburgh. Bias plus score 24 favors Pittsburgh. That swarming Pittsburgh defense and that questionable New England offense.
Okay, we can do this one real quick. Who has the bias? Pittsburgh?
Yep.
I'm just taking my notes here so I can remember what's what. I'm going to go with the Steelers. way too much defense for the New England Patriots, who are struggling right now. And Mac Jones has a back injury. I don't know how serious it is yet, but they did take him in for X-rays. They're not going to be able to stand up to that defense. They're really not. Only way Pittsburgh loses this game is if Trubisky loses it. And I'll tell you, he made some passes last week that had me going, no, but
Yeah.
They pulled it out. They pulled it out, man.
There was one pass where the guy caught it. I think it was on the left side. It was covered. He went out and caught the ball. And I looked and there was like a guy wide open underneath. I was like, damn, that's what I talk about all the time. But okay. You got Pittsburgh. The Bias Plus has Pittsburgh. How about Indianapolis at Jacksonville? Bias Plus score of only 3 favors Indianapolis. What did you think about Matty Ice so far? Huh? Between Matty Ice and Flacco, I'm starting to wonder if the old guys, they need to be moving on.
I don't know. I think Ryan still got it. Yeah, I think Flacco's shot. I think Matty Ice still has it. Plus, he's got that great running game. It's just that what's scaring me about the Colts is their defense doesn't look as sharp as I thought it was going to. That has me a little worried for them. But I think they'll have enough juice to beat Jacksonville. So I'm going to take the Colts. I'm not real confident about it, I must say, because I think Trevor Lawrence and Doug Peterson got something going. They're going to win some games this year. Not this one, but they're going to win some games. I picked them last week. They almost pulled it out.
True that. All right. They got some talent in there. No doubt about it. They got some talent. Their big time number 1 draft pick on the defensive line showed up a little bit too.
Yeah, he played well. And how about that Christian Kirk? Thought he was stealing money. He came up big time too.
All right.
He did his thing.
But it's not changing your opinion.
No, it's not. No, it's not. I'm going to take the Colts.
Now, I was talking about Miami and how impressed I was. Of course, Lamar looked like he was just showing off at certain points. He's throwing from the pocket. He's doing everything. He didn't do a lot of running. The Bias Plus score is 0. It's a tie.
What?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so there you go. Favors high.
This is a tough one. Let me check my notes here. Ravens beat the Jets handily. Miami impressed me with their defense. I tell you what I'm going to do. Ooh, this looks like a shootout, bro. This might be the game of the week. Are you going to pick an intriguing game of the week?
I had not thought about it, but now that we're going through it, I'll continue to think about it a little bit more.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I would put a little check mark beside this one.
Yeah.
This could be really good. This could be a really good one. The Miami defense has impressed me. It is true. The Baltimore defense, I think, will be more or less back, considering all the injuries they had last year. I don't know how outstanding they're going to be, but I think they're going to be solid. That being said, again, Lamar had his way last week, didn't hardly have to run at all, but their run game is hurting a little bit. Until they get J.K. Dobbins back, that's going to be a problem, I think. And Lamar may have to get on his horse and run a little bit more this week against Miami. That could be good. That could be bad. Wow. I think the Miami Dolphins go into Baltimore and pull out the win.
Uh-oh. Ruh-roh. Uh-oh.
Who got the bias? The Ravens, right?
tie.
Oh, right. It was okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that's the first tie of the season. Let's see what we have up next. Atlanta at the LA Rams by a split score of 18 favors Atlanta because the Rams got spanked. That's a tough one. It's tough to go with that, you know what I mean? And believe that that can happen. But you got what, Mariota?
Yeah, I don't believe that that can happen. That's not going to happen. Let me check something here real fast. Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay. No, I'm going to pick the Rams at home. I think they get themselves together. Cooper Kupp has already proven he's unstoppable. Still had a stellar game last week, regardless of what the other guys did. I think they tighten up their pass rush a little bit, give Aaron Donald a little bit more help, and they shouldn't have too much trouble stopping the Falcons. So the heck with the bias, I'm going with the Rams.
Yeah, well, you know.
Not really sticking my neck out, I guess, but considering what happened last week, you have to give it some thought.
Yeah, what happened last week looked like an anomaly again. It looks
right.
like the Rams are a team that didn't do a lot of those practices, and so they're still kind of getting it together. So we take everything with the first 3 games with a grain of salt for the second preseason. What do we have here? Aha! Seattle at my beloved San Francisco 49ers. Bias plus score of 12 favors Seattle. Seattle won the game. Niners didn't. Makes sense. They got to go into Levi Stadium here.
Unfortunately, this game is scary. All week long, if you turn on the television, they're talking about Trey Lance, this whole 49 situation. We've been talking about this since the preseason, before the season started. The whole idea of the Jimmy G, Trey Lance thing. Is he ready? Is he not? Are you going to commit to him? If you are, you need to do this, you need to do that. Maybe they're not committed to him. Maybe they're just saying it is. Blah, 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 blah. Okay? The bottom line is Pete Carroll and the Seattle Seahawks or front office are up to something. I said, and I remember saying this, I said in the preseason that if they stay satisfied with the choice between Geno Smith and Drew Lock, that I believe that they're going to tank the season and pick a quarterback in the first round in the upcoming draft. But that game plan they came into that Denver game with was money. They said, okay, Geno, you earned the job, and they made him earn it. They gave them both equal time in preseason games. They played. They're not guys who sat on the side. Neither one of them was the established starter. So they both had to play and prove themselves.
Pete Carroll's a big competition guy.
That was, yes. Anyway, he's a big competition guy anyway. But they had to have a competition here. They had to settle on somebody. So once they settled on him, they built that game plan around him, and he sent him in there with a ton of confidence. And I'm telling you, they could do that again. This could be a little bit scary, except I still really don't have a whole lot of respect for the Seahawks defense. And Jamal Adams, who is their best defensive player, is injured. So I'm going to go with the 49ers again. Hopefully they won't let me down this week.
The challenge is no Kittle, number one. I think having Kittle.
He was supposed to practice today. I don't know if he did.
Oh, my goodness. I hope so. I think having Kittle was like Brady having Gronk. You know, when times is tough, that's where you can go.
Right.
And you lose Mitchell, right?
Yes, but you know their record with running backs. I expect Jeff Wilson to step right in.
Jeff Wilson is a good option. And I don't remember the gentleman's name, but there's a guy further down on the depth chart that's one of the faster guys on the team.
Yes,
He got some speed down in that. And I was surprised when they started running Debo when you have running backs, So, okay, we'll
I'm
see.
surprised they had success with it. They're not going to throw that out. They're going to use him. They gave him his money. Run, boy, run.
You're not surprised, but I'm like, look, I want Debo there in week 18. And
I
that's
hear
so
you,
I'm
bro,
like,
but
we have, and it's not like we don't have running backs. Like you can't, not like you can't run all of those fly sweeps and everything with the running backs that you have. So again,
not like he runs them.
what they do and what I think they should do obviously will be different, but that's what I think. So you're going with San Fran in this one?
Yes, I am.
Oh my goodness. Gee, Christmas. Come on, San Fran. How about the Cincinnati Bengals at Dallas Cowboys? Bias plus score of 8 favors the Bengals. Both teams struggled last week. And you got Cooper Rush at quarterback. I'm going to finish doing this research, but because this was the first week back to all the statistics that I have to compile, I really didn't have time to screw with it. But I started thinking about what is the contract. Let's say the annual pay that that gets versus what Cooper Rush gets, and I think that the differential is so large that it actually says something about the team and about some philosophies and whether they're serious about Super Bowls and all of that. It's just so big nowadays that it's just something I think needs to be thought about. In any event, the bias has the Bengals. Who do you have?
I'm going to go with the Bengals also. I agree with the bias. I think the issues that they had last week are far more easily fixed than the problems that the Dallas Cowboys have.
Okay. Far more easily fixed. How about Houston at Denver? Bias plus score of 3 favors Houston.
Wow. Boy, oh boy. No respect, Russell. They have nobody to blame but themselves, man. Texans go into Mile High. Davis Mills actually had a pretty solid game.
Yeah, we both like Davis Mills.
Yeah, they put up 20 in the Colts defense, and Denver didn't impress me. If Houston can put together a solid game plan the way Seattle did and really attack their defense properly, they can come away with the win. I'm going to take Houston on the road.
Okay. Houston on the road. I actually think Denver is going to be better. I think that the things that
I would expect them to be better.
I think Russell moved the ball, and like I said, other than those goal line turnovers, if they were scores, they'd be golden right now. That was kind of unusual to see that type of turnover situation. So let's see how this all works. The bias has Houston, and Ben's going with
Houston.
All right, the Cardinals at the Raiders. Bias plus score of only 3 favors the Raiders.
This one stinks. These teams are very evenly matched, except for the fact that, they're evenly matched defensively, but offensively, they're not evenly matched because obviously the Raiders have pretty much all their skill position players intact. The Cardinals do not. Yeah, but the Cardinals do have Kyler Murray. who looks to be ready to prove to everybody that he earned that money for that new contract that he signed, that makes him dangerous, especially against a lackluster defense. But I always try to go with the team that I think is the more solid all-around team. And to me, right now, that would be the Raiders. So I'm going to agree with the bias, and I'm going to go with the Raiders. But in fantasy, if I have Murray, I would play him.
Well, again, Arizona was last in net points, so it makes sense. The Raiders were -5 and Arizona was -20, -23. I'm not sure how that worked out. Anyway, you're going with the Raiders. Chicago at Green Bay. Green Bay owns Chicago, right? Isn't that what Aaron said? He owns
Aaron
Chicago.
Rodgers said he owns the Bears.
However, the bias plus is 28 in favor of the Bears.
28.
Come on, let's go. Let's
one. That's a joke. It's week 1, man. That's a joke.
Same thing happened last year to the Packers. Remember, they got spanked in the first game.
Yeah, but this.
I mean, that's just the first game. I think they won the second game. So I'm just saying, for some reason, that first game with the Packers,
Well, I think the Packers learned a lesson. When you lack in playmakers, you have to stick with your studs. And the studs on this team are Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon. Now, A.J. Dillon did get off on the ground pretty well, but I think that was later on in the game. Aaron Jones has to get more touches. He has to get far more touches. There's no way they're going to be able to work these young receivers into the game plan with safe plays and easy routes for them to run and easy ways for Aaron to connect with them to get their confidence up, unless they use Aaron Jones to put a hurting on some of these defenses. He is a stud running back through the air and on the ground. And if he doesn't get touches, they're doing themselves a disservice. I believe they know that. I believe they will change that. So I'm going to take the Packers in this game, especially at home against the Bears. Now, the Bears I'm not going to say the Bears were even impressive last week. They won the game. I will say Justin Fields was a bit impressive to me. He looks light years ahead of where he was last year.
Yeah.
Just in the way he was moving and throwing the ball and making decisions, that alone. So I'm happy for him, but I don't think they can go into Green Bay and beat the Packers.
Okay. All right. Don't think they can go in there and beat the Packers. Hey. Tennessee at Buffalo. Bias plus score of 20 favors Buffalo. Do we even have to talk about this one? You just want to keep going?
Yeah, let's go with the Bills.
Go with the Bills. Benny loves the Bills. All right. There's 2 Monday night games, and this is the late game.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, there's no Sunday night?
There was a Sunday night game. I forget which one it was.
Oh, the Bills-Titans must be Sunday night.
I'll double check on the schedule.
Okay.
But long story short, this is the game right here, late Sunday night. And I mean, Bias plus score of 14 favors Minnesota. Makes sense. I mean, the game between the Lions and the Eagles came down to like a 3-point game, so the net was small. Minnesota just looked really good. And the Sunday night game is Green Bay and Chicago. Just so you know.
Okay. I'm going to go with the bias and go with the Vikings on this. Number one, yes, I am high on the Vikings this year. I think they're going to be a tough out come playoff time. I think Kirk Cousins is at the top of his game right now. I think Justin Jefferson is uncoverable. Darius Slay will probably travel and cover him all over the field. He's going to have his hands full. And I have Adam Thielen on a couple of fantasy teams. He didn't do too much for me last week because it was so easy to get the ball to Jefferson. Maybe if Slay can possibly slow Jefferson down a little bit, Thielen will be able to get off for me. Then it'll be a win-win. So, yeah, I'm taking the Vikings.
Yeah, I mean the Vikings look good. They got the new coach, and the new coach seems like he's got some things going on. So we'll have to keep an eye on that guy. But I believe that wraps up the weekend, Benny. Benny.
Wait, you said there was 2 Monday night games.
Tennessee and Buffalo.
Okay.
That's
I got you. Cool.
Tennessee and Buffalo. So just to go through the schedule real quick and just to make sure I didn't miss anything. Thursday night, you got Chargers, Chiefs. Sunday, the 1:00 games are, let's see here, Miami at Baltimore, Indianapolis at Jacksonville, New England at Pittsburgh, Carolina at New York, Tampa Bay at New Orleans, Washington at Detroit, and New York Jets at Cleveland. So your 4:00 games is Atlanta at the Rams, Seattle at the Niners, Cincinnati at Dallas, and Houston at Denver, and Arizona at Vegas. And then you have Sunday night, Chicago at Green Bay. And then you have the 2 Monday night games, Tennessee at Buffalo and Minnesota at Philadelphia. That game time is 8:30, Ben. It's like past my bedtime.
Gonna be rocking down at the link, huh?
Oh, tell me about it. All right. Well, then that kind of wraps it up. Then I only got a couple things I want to talk about from our social media page. And the first thing is something that you and I have had conversations about. And as a novice to college football, I was like, what the heck is going on here with the way that they're beating some of these teams? And then you inform me that those teams get money for it. And Dion is saying that that's peanuts, that they shouldn't accept such a small amount of money for taking the kind of butt whippings that they're taking, the kind of beatings that destroy the morale and things of that nature, and that money should go to the football team, I think he said. But the main thing is to see somebody actually speak out about the amount of money being paid by the large schools versus the small schools. What do you think about that?
I agree. And I don't know what their thinking is when they accept these invitations for the amounts of money that they actually do. I'm not privy to what their thought process is, so I don't even want to begin to try to guess why they would say, yes, we'll come up there and we'll play you at home when we know we're going to get our butts kicked, and we'll accept whatever amount of money you offer us. But I don't think it's enough. It's definitely not enough. Let's face it, we know why the big schools do that. They want a guaranteed win. It builds morale on campus. It's a fun game for the students, and it gives them a chance to empty out the roster in a real game after spring practice and let everybody get a chance to get into a game that actually counts and see what they got. So I understand why they do it. But HBCUs and other small schools are always going to be at a disadvantage in the trenches against these Power 5 schools. I don't care what you got in the skill positions. If you can't block and you can't tackle, you're not going to win. You know what I mean? So if you're willing to take your team on the road, give them a nice experience, let them test themselves against a team full of 5-star players, which a lot of guys take that challenge, you know, till the second quarter's over, and then they're like, "Oh my God, what have we done?" But nobody's going to say, "No, we're scared to go." They're going to want to go. They're going to want to play. They're going to want to test themselves. So it should be a win-win for both, but there should be more money offered or demanded by the HBCUs. And also, when he talks about players getting demoralized and all that other stuff, let that money come back to the football program and not be spread across campus. Okay, that's right. If we make this sacrifice and go up here and get crushed, at least we know the locker room is going to be better next year. The weight room is going to be upgraded. We're going to get the best helmets. We're going to, you know what I mean?
Funny you say that. I'll just throw this in as an aside. Apparently, there was a study that came out, and during camp, they had the special foam covering for the helmets. Well, apparently, they did some level of study and said that concussions were reduced as a result of that. So, all right, this is it for me, Benny. This is what I have here. So, we talked about the Broncos coach and his choice to kick the ball as opposed to trying to letting Russ see if he get 5 yards, right? Get that first down. But the interesting thing is, I thought I saw something, and then when I went and looked at the stats, it wasn't in the stats, and I wasn't hearing anybody in the media talking about this.
Right.
Let's take a quick look here, if we can. All right, look at this. See the kick?
Yep.
See it's off to the right?
Yep.
That kick did not count.
Right.
Because the other coach called time out.
So he had another chance to change his mind.
Yes. Not only did he have another chance to change his mind, Seattle used their last timeout. He still had 2.
Yep.
Still had 2 timeouts. And I'm like, did you not see that guy was way off on that first kick? But nobody was saying that. And I'm like, listen, isn't somebody going to say the fact that the guy missed it already badly?
Yeah, but he had the distance, though.
Well, he said, get me to that particular, yard line, 46 or whatever, and he thought he could do it,
But that's goofy.
His long was 61 and this was 64. So either way, and like I said, he missed it as it was.
That's first of all, that's goofy. To say our goal was to get to the 46-yard line means you're setting him up for failure. If the ball gets snapped from the 46 and the goal line and the goalpost is on the back line, that's 56, and he's got to line up 7 to 8 yards behind the line of scrimmage, it's a 64-yard kick. How can your goal be to kick a 64-yard kick? Maybe a 58-yard kick.
At least something within the range of which he had already had success.
Of his longest, the range of his longest.
Something in that range. This is outside that range. And just because he said, I think I can do it. Like they said, you paid Russ how much money?
You had more confidence in this kicker making a kick from a distance he's never made than you have in Russell Wilson getting you 5 yards. Now, first of all, it's not all on Russ, right? It has to be a good play.
Right.
Somebody has to run it, catch it. That's on the coach. But if you decide, I'm only going to get this far, and then you got to go in and make the kick, that's all on the kicker. That's all on him. Not only did you have more confidence in the kicker than you had in Russ, you had more confidence in the kicker than you had in yourself to call a successful play to get 5 yards. The more I think about it, the worse it gets.
Well, that's why I added that to it, because I hadn't heard anyone talk about the fact that he had already missed it once, and then they went and kicked it again.
I think
They
when he
missed
missed
it to the
it,
same side.
I think when he missed it, he said, "This is my chance to be the hero and say that I made the right decision," because he had the distance. All he has to do is straighten it out. He'll make this one.
All right.
Hey, if he straightened it out, he would have made it. It wasn't short, was it?
I don't think so.
I think it had the distance.
It might have had the distance. It might have.
But
I believe that was one of the stranger calls of the weekend, and everyone's talked about it. But I just wanted to share the fact that he had already missed it once, and then he missed it twice. So there you go. All right, Benny, I'm done. What you got?
who knows?
Go Nose.